Greetings, my acolytes. Acolytes of the Sith, brotherhoods of darkness, and welcome back to our archives. I have been expecting you. Alchemists, sorcerers, and magicians, welcome back. You are all welcome in the embrace of knowledge. Today, one of our favourite topics on the channel is to cover the life of the ancient pure-blooded Sith Lords, ancient Sith kings, Dark Lords, and Emperors who ruled the galaxy and took the galaxy by storm through their various alchemical creations, sorcery, and designs. One of these most notable and powerful of these ancient Sith Lords was Marka Ragnos, Tenebrae, and Tulak Hord. But today, we are going to be exploring the Sith that directly succeeded Ragnos after his death by natural causes in 5000 BBY, that being Darth Naga Sadow, or as he is most commonly referred as, Naga Sadow. Naga Sadow was a master Sith alchemist and Dark Lord of the Sith who, in 5000 BBY, took the Sith Empire to the brink of galactic and utter universal domination in the Great Hyperspace War, which would later be regarded as one of the greatest cataclysms and failures the Sith Empire had ever created. Before we proceed, a lot of the ships that dock in our hangars are yet to administer themselves with our archives. If you wish to chew yourself on more Star Wars lore, I implore you, hit the subscribe button. At 1,000 subscribers, I will do a face reveal and reveal that I am in fact not as ugly as Naga Sadow or Emperor Palpatine. But with that out of the way, acolytes, let us explore this ancient Sith pureblood and explore how powerful he really was, as potentially the only Sith Emperor that rivaled that of Lord Sidious. Naga Sadow was a half-breed Sith born on the planet Zyos, one of the main Sith worlds in history that would later be decimated by Vitiate. Sadow was trained by the Sith warlord Simos, who would later become a decapitated head during his duel with the Sith Lord Marka Ragnos, and ruled over a secret citadel on the moon Kars Sayan, where he became one of the most powerful Sith magicians of all time and alchemists. A member of the Sith Council under the reign of Dark Lord of the Sith Marka Ragnos during the golden era of the Sith Empire. Sadow's preached an expansionist philosophy that put him at odds with much of the isolated Sith Empire's establishment and ideology. Sadow is considered a major candidate for the Dark Lord of the Sith title and ruler of the Sith Empire after Darth Ragnos' death, with Marka Ragnos ultimately leaving the Sith away after dying from natural causes at over 2 centuries old, leading him in a power struggle with fellow Sith Lord and Sith human hybrid Ludo Kresh, his most bitter rival, that only ended with the surprise arrival of 2 explorers from the Far Off Republic and the apparition of Marka Ragnos, warning them that only the strongest and who would prevail would succeed. Sadow saw an opportunity in the 2 explorers, siblings Gav and Joro Daragon, and used the suspicion and speculation and fear, as well as paranoia raised by their arrival, to foment and orchestrate a war with the Republic, forcing the Sith Empire to go to war with the entirety of the Empire's ranks in union with Sadow. Along the way, Sadow shattered Kresh's forces at Kar Debla, leaving no challenges to his authority and mantle as the Dark Lord. With Kresh seemingly out of the picture entirely, Sadow gathered all of his Sith Lords and built a formidable military force that would eventually nearly conquer the Republic, while also taking Gav Daragon after realizing he was Force-sensitive, as his personal Sith Padawan and apprentice. When the time was eventually right, Sadow and his forces made their move on the Republic, launching a massive surprise attack on the Republic, military, and the Jedi, a many-pronged strike aimed at conquering the important Koros system, while also seizing the Republic capital of Coruscant. For his part, Sadow stayed isolated in the Sith meditation sphere known as the Sith Corsair, using various Sith alchemy designs and magic to augment his forces with illusionary beasts and ships, in order to drive the Jedi and Republic forces into utter and complete panic. Sadow's efforts initially met with great success, and he was on the cusp of victory and overwhelming galactic domination when the events turned against him. Gav Daragon turned Coat once more home, and attacked Sadow in his meditation sphere, briefly disrupting Sadow's and breaking his concentration and causing his illusions to dissipate. His meditation halted. Sadow killed Daragon and fled home, only to find a surprisingly still alive Ludo Kresh waiting for him with his own constructed Sith army. Sadow managed to defeat his rival in a final defeat before immediately being forced into battle again with the pursuing Republic invasion fleet. Seeing he could not prevail, Sadao escaped through a daring run with the twin stars of Denari Nova and made his way to the uninhabited moon of Yavin 4, the same place that Exar Kun would once travel to. Fried Nad would bind his spirit, and Exar Kun would create temples that still stand to this day and would house the Rebel Alliance, unaware of the lingering dark side presence there. Sadao practiced and tutored himself in more alchemy alone there for decades, building and constructing massive temple complexes that would be used by the Rebel Alliance over 4 millennia later, before voluntarily placing himself in a suspended animation, allowing him to reserve his use and his power until a worthy candidate came along to carry on the moniker of Sith Emperor. He was awoken some 600 years later by a fallen Jedi Knight named Fried Nad, who had recently killed his master in a friendly sparring session, who learned the former Dark Lord of the Sith's secrets before obliterating him. Sadao was further then entombed by his Masasai servants on Yavin 4, and the Sith Lord's legacy and lost artifacts continued to draw the interest of other Sith and archaeologists long after his death, with his tomb being placed on Yavin 4, creating and making an immense dark side presence there. Now, let's delve into his powers and how Naga Sadao was so exceptionally skilled. A quote from Naga Sadao describes his mastery of Sith sorcery, alchemy, and illusions that surpasses potentially anyone in Star Wars lore, even the prophesied and acclaimed Emperor Vitiate. Here, in my meditation chamber, I can see the galaxy in my mind's eye. I can visualize vast armies, a powerful fleet, invincible warriors, and with Sith arts, my imagination can make them real. A powerful Sith magician hailed as not only the greatest of his time, but of all time, Naga Sadao was remembered long after his death as a master and pioneer of many alchemical and Sith sorcery arts, who had the ability to twist the natural order of the universe to serve and bind it to its purposes. With his magic and sorcery that had been constructed by the ancient Sith kings of purebloods some 100,000 years prior, Sadao could transform the living into monstrous, brutal beasts, and own malformed servants of death that he could dispatch as extensions of his will, very similar to the children of the Emperor that Vitiate would one day construct. And it was said to give flesh to those spirits already departed, meaning Sadao could literally reanimate the spirits of those who had departed, meaning he could have revived Marco Ragnos and entombed him within flesh once again. Sadao could also focus his gift of alchemy and magic into greater and more grander displays of force power, including causing supernovas, something that has never been seen in all of Star Wars lore until Grandmaster Luke Skywalker, and solar flares to cover his retreat at the end of the Great Hyperspace War, capable of decimating fleets, and supernovas capable of utterly obliterating all in their path in a wave of superheated energy and radiation. But Sadao's power in the Force went beyond just the Sith alchemy that he was known for, and feared for. Sadao was incredibly potent at manifesting and dissipating illusions, focusing his energy for such pursuits in his Sith meditation sphere and Sith corsair. When in his sphere, Sadao had the ability to conjure hundreds upon hundreds, maybe even thousands of illusions simultaneously, and manifest them even light years away, preserving his own safety while already augmenting the beings that he served, such as the Sith Empire, through the dark use of battle meditation, generating thousands and hundreds of more ships and vessels, in order to drive fear and panic into the ranks of the Republic. Sadao's power of illusion was so great that he made it one of the focal points of his plan during the Great Hyperspace War, a legendary conflict in Star Wars lore. However, Sadao was not able to sustain these illusions when his concentration was even briefly broken, as it was when Gav Daragon turned on him in Primus Golod, causing his concentration to break and shatter, and the Sith Empire to ultimately be driven back, and Vitiate to eventually seek power. Exar Kun discovered the true power of Naga Sadao's corsair, stating that power and Naga Sadao had the power to wrench fire from the stars itself, bringing down tendrils of blue flame to utterly obliterate anything in their path. Naga Sadao, via the use of sorcery and alchemy, became single-handedly one of the most formidable Sith in all of history, rather than that of beings such as Darth Bane and Tulak Horde. Personally, I think that Naga Sadao's midichlorian count would be something around that of Dooku, roughly 14,000, if not slightly higher. Naga Sadao never expressed true showings of force strength and primarily focused on rituals as well as alchemical boosts using the Sith meditation sphere in order to use it in battle, in order to overcome all beings that he could. Sadao was not only gifted in the art of alchemy, illusion crafting, he was also a brilliant strategist. Sadao's strengths lied not in direct confrontation, but in his mastery the ability to intuit where his foes was weakest, finding the pinpoint where his foe would ultimately succumb to, and then strike precisely and devastatingly. As a Sith Lord who had arisen and ascended to the mantle of Dark Lord after the death of Marka Ragnos, Sadao was no stranger to individual combat, and was a match for Ludo Kresh with his famous Force-imbued Sith sword, due to the fact that lightsabers were not the primary use in the Sith Empire at that time. At much of the Sith ranks were mainly composed and mainly consisted of Sith purebloods and half-breeds. Sadao often employed telekinesis while in single combat, pausing his sword strikes to pelt his opponents with stones using the Force. Sadao also proved himself handy with the Republic blaster in his breakout of Gav and Joro Daragon from his imprisonment on Zyos. Even though he had never seen a weapon of its type before, and the Sith of the time largely fought with swords and spears imbued with devastating dark side energy, causing even one singular cut to have devastating effects such as unearthing a plague and causing their skin to turn to ash. Sadao was fluent in his native Sith and the tongue of his Masasai slaves, the warrior caste of the Sith purebloods, as well as the galactic basic of his Jedi ancestors. Personally, I believe that Sadao's power would rival that of Darth Sidious himself if he had been allowed to continue. However, he may very well stop here though, as he had been shown even with his amplifications from the Sith meditation sphere being able to wrench fire from the sky and the stars. Sadao still was unable to surpass Marka Ragnos, who was a Sith who had come before him, and in turn, being such as Tulak Horde. Sadao, while being exceptionally formidable, lacked primary combat traits that many Sith required. Beings like Tulak Horde and Exar Kun could plow down entire armies of beings effortlessly, using their pure mastery and brutality in order to overthrow it. While Sadao was certainly beautiful, making use of amulets, crystals, and a Sith meditation sphere to augment his power, it was purely just this, augmentation. Sadao's natural affinity with the Force was largely unimpressive, and fell around the age and range of an average Jedi Master. But however, in terms of sorcery and alchemy, he was regarded as the most powerful Sith sorcerer of all time, something that I personally believe. I personally believe the only being to ever have rivaled Sadao's mastery of illusions, his equipment, and his alchemical mastery was that of Darth Vitiate, mainly consisting of his equipment due to the fact that it allowed him to augment his illusions. Much of his equipment was used to focus and augment his dark talents. Sadao was able to wield his greatest alchemical power on the Death-Griffin class battleship, the Corsair, which had an array of crystals in a platform on the bridge. Though these crystals, Sadao was able to summon nigh unlimited power, including the ability to obliterate stars themselves. Sadao also owned a Sith meditation sphere, which served as a center for creating illusions, and he was able to achieve this at an incredibly large scale during the Great Hyperspace War, manifesting hundreds upon hundreds of ships. One of Naga Sadao's most striking possessions and jewels was the bejeweled Sith amulet that he wore and garnered on his hands, which he used to help focus dark-side energy in him for his alchemical pursuits. Well, my friends, what did you think of this video? Remember, I'll see you in a galaxy far, far away, and remember, kneel before the dragon of Zakuul, or face the consequences that I possess.